Ever get that feeling, like you're being watched, like something's out there, just beyond the edge of the firelight in the dark?
Oh, absolutely. That primal instinct, it's wired into us, isn't it?
It's what makes stories like the one we're diving into today so unsettling. The Allagash incident.
Right, because it takes that fear, that feeling of being observed, and cranks it up. Makes you question what's really out there.
We're talking about a group of friends, 4 art students, heading out into the wilds of Maine back in 1976.
And the Allagash Waterway, let me tell you, that's not your manicured city park.
Huh?
This is deep woods, lakes, a true wilderness.
Isolated, remote, the kind of place you go to, escaped out everything.
And in a way, that's what these guys were doing, right? Seeking inspiration, a break from the everyday. Jim and Jack Weiner, Charlie Foltz, and Chuck Rack, they were artists, not exactly seasoned survivalists.
But their escape turned into, well, for lack of a better term, a nightmare. It all starts innocently enough. August 20th, they're out on Eagle Lake.
Picture it. Clear night sky, stars like you wouldn't believe. They've got a bonfire going on the shore, casting that flickering light. Peaceful.
Until it isn't. Jim Weiner, he's the first to see it.
This light. Not a plane, not a satellite, something different.
And it's moving slowly, deliberately, almost as if it's, I don't know, watching them.
That unease sets in, right?
Yeah.
That primal fear we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Because now they're being observed by something they can't explain.
And this light, it starts moving towards them.
Not just drifting, but closing in, like it's got a purpose.
Panic takes over. They're shining flashlights at it, hoping it's just some lost campers or something. But this thing, it doesn't react the way something with a human at the helm would.
Just keeps coming.
Yeah.
So they do what anyone would do. They paddle back to shore, hearts pounding.
But it follows them, relentlessly, like it's toying with them.
And this is where things get really strange. See, their memories of what happens next, they just vanish.
They're back on shore, safe, but that bonfire that was blazing, reduced to embers. And none of them can recall exactly how they got there.
Like someone hit the fast forward button on their experience. It's like a chunk of time, just gone. And something had to have happened during that missing time, something terrifying enough to make them flee like that.
And it's not just that they can't remember the finer details, is it? It's like this black hole in their minds, swallowing up a big chunk of that night.
Exactly. And that's what makes this case so different. So much more than just, oh, I forgot where I put my keys. This is a significant gap, and it's filled with this unsettling feeling that something happened, something they can't quite grasp.
You'd think if it was just a matter of their minds blocking out a scary experience, that would be the end of it, right? But it doesn't stop there, does it?
Not even close. They try to go back to their lives, these 4 friends. But the Allagash, it's left its mark on them. They can't just shake this off.
It's like a low hum in the back of their minds, this sense that something's not quite right.
And for Jim and Jack Weiner, those hums turn into full-blown nightmares. And these aren't your run-of-the-mill bad dreams. We're talking vivid, terrifying, recurring nightmares.
Nightmares, where those feelings of being watched, of something being just out of sight, they come back with a vengeance.
And what's truly unsettling is the consistency of their nightmares. Both Jim and Jack describe the same beings.
Beings, like creatures.
Yeah, they describe these figures with large, almost bulbous heads and these piercing black eyes. Very otherworldly.
That's chilling, almost like something out of those early UFO abduction reports.
It's interesting you mention that because this is 1976. Those kinds of images weren't as prevalent in popular culture as they are today.
So they're having these vivid nightmares, these disturbing images seared into their minds, and nothing makes sense. You can imagine the toll that would take.
It's like their subconscious is trying to tell them something, to make sense of an experience their conscious minds can't access. They're left grappling with this unsettling feeling, this knowing that something happened, but the details are lost in this fog of missing time.
So what do? They turn to hypnosis, right?
Exactly. Now keep in mind, hypnosis, it's not about mind control or planting false memories. It's more like a tool to help someone relax and potentially access memories that are buried deep down, memories that might be too traumatic to face consciously.
So each of the men undergoes hypnosis separately. They're hoping to fill in those blanks, those missing pieces of the puzzle, and that's when things take a truly chilling turn.
Because despite being hypnotized individually, their stories, well, they start to overlap in ways that are difficult to explain away as mere coincidence.
It's like all of a sudden those nightmares, they're bleeding into reality. What they're describing under hypnosis, It sends chills down your spine.
They start to recall being taken aboard this dot craft of some sort. The same beings from their nightmares. They're there. And they're subjecting the men to these dot
It's
examinations.
like something out of a science fiction movie.
And here's the thing. It's not just vague impressions. They're describing details. The cold, metallic surfaces inside the craft. The strange instruments being used on them.
They even talk about how the beings communicated, not with spoken language, but telepathically.
That's right. Imagine the feeling of vulnerability. Not only being at the mercy of these beings, but having them inside your head, able to read your thoughts. It's a level of invasion that's hard to even fathom.
It's almost too much to process. It's like they stumbled into a nightmare they can't wake up from. It makes you think about how we use places to ground ourselves, you know? Like, for these guys, the Allagash was supposed to be their escape, a source of peace and inspiration.
Right, a place to reconnect with nature, to find that creative spark.
And then it's flipped on its head. After that night, it becomes something else entirely.
It becomes almost tainted, right?
Yeah, like a place that holds this dark secret, a memory they can't outrun.
And that really speaks to the power of the story. It's one thing to have a strange experience, but for it to completely change your relationship with a place, to turn it from a source of comfort to a source of fear, that's significant.
So we're left with these four witnesses, all seemingly credible, each telling a remarkably similar story, a story that's even backed up by hypnosis. But it's a UFO encounter. It's easy to be skeptical, to look for other explanations. What are your thoughts?
Well, that's a million-dollar question, isn't it? Was it truly a close encounter with extraterrestrial beings? Or could it be something else? Some people point to the possibility of a shared hallucination, perhaps triggered by stress, isolation, who knows? Maybe even something in the environment itself.
Right, like those cases where people claim their food was spiked with something and they all end up seeing the same things.
Exactly. But even if we consider those possibilities, even if we try to rationalize it, we're still left with this incredibly unsettling event, this incident that really highlights the limits of our understanding, the fact that there are things out there, phenomena we encounter that we can't easily explain away.
And it makes you think about the human side of it all, too. You've got these four friends suddenly thrust into a situation they were completely unprepared for, facing the unknown like that sense of vulnerability.
Yeah.
It's something we can all relate to on some level, I think.
Absolutely. And that's why these kinds of stories, they continue to fascinate us, to resonate with us, whether we're full-on believers in UFOs or not. They tap into something primal, something that makes us question everything we think we know about the world, our place in it. It reminds us that there might be more out there, beyond our comprehension, beyond our control.
It's a reminder that the universe is vast, mysterious, and we humans, we're really just starting to scratch the surface of what might be possible. So the next time you find yourself under a night sky, maybe out camping, maybe just looking up at the stars from your backyard, think about the Allagash 4 and ask yourself, what would it take for you to question everything you thought you knew? What might be hidden in those vast expanses, waiting to be discovered? Or perhaps waiting to find us?